So hello, everybody. This is to kick off the production of the enterprise page redesign. So we have gone through kind of like what the plan of action is regarding timeline, all the other pages, and this is to actually get this going. I put together in the beginning, I put a very brief together, and we can discuss this, but this is kind of all the different conversations that have happened between various different stakeholders about what this enterprise page should be.
Can I interrupt you really quick?
Yeah.
I always do this to you. There's 3 links to 2 documents in an epic. Can you just clarify which one you're
sorry, I'm looking at the agenda for this meeting. Which
is it named?
Did I write agenda?
I have 2 open. One says website refresh and one says enter.
So hold on. It's this one that I'm typing on.
Okay.
Enterprise page.
Yes.
Sorry, I always do this to you. I'll stop now.
Okay. It's putting like too many links in there, honestly. So yeah, so this is kind of, by the story we are telling, I am saying this is really high level. These are kind of the things that we've been talking about. We were going to be doing some A/B testing on messaging, but unfortunately that didn't get to go through on the MVC2 that went live last week. So we're doing it on MVC3. So we'll have some results from that. But the key thing to understand here is that while the goal is to capture large MQLs, we are not necessarily targeting the people that would be essentially the way we've thought of them before as decision makers at large MQL companies. We should be talking to individuals that work at that company that would, be looking at this as a product that could help them, their team, and they would eventually suggest to the higher ups. And we are relying on the MQLs that we're gathering on these and the salespeople to push that forward. That's beginning of how we're starting to think about this. That may change as we get more information and we see kind of things that are working, but for the time being, that is what we are going to go with, and that is the story that we want to tell. So I put here CTAs of importance. The reason that these CTAs are ordered in importance here is based on our MQL scoring system. So this is not saying these are the CTAs that we know are the most important to people. This is saying the goal is to capture large MQLs, free trials, contact sales, and demo. All 3 of those MQL very similarly with the same numbers. And we know that we've been told based on the strategy and tactics document from Todd that he presented last week, I think it was, that free trial is one of the top ones we're going to be doing. So that's what we're going to be focusing on. And then I put learn more at the bottom because in general, we know right now we have the page set up that we're trying to push these larger CTAs, but we know that people might not be ready to do a free trial or get a demo. So we might want to have some learn more options down there. So the scope definition, this is high level scope, and we can talk about this and broaden it or bring it down more in this conversation even. We're doing a full page redesign. So the wireframes that we had from before were pretty standard. In case anybody doesn't remember the history, we were asked to get that page up in a week. So we had 1 week to get that page done, and then we've made small MVCs on it. This is an opportunity for us to look at what other people do, what we think would be best, and using kind of the goals in the audience, make a page that we think is designed well enough that we could help push people through that journey. So I have on here that we'll be utilizing Jumpstart. I don't know, this is something that's been talked about a few times. Is that everybody's understanding that we would want to use Jumpstart for this? Or Brandon, do you think this is something that we actually just need to code out?
I think we just need to code out, and I could say why. Basically, we're still
in the process of establishing our new design system. Part of that is evaluating what parts we have and then putting it into a design system. And then from there, changing what exists into a new design language. So we can use this as an opportunity to separately code and kind of integrate and go in that direction, but it's not ready yet to be used for the jumpstart. It can inform design decisions, but we don't have anything final yet.
Okay, perfect. So then the other thing here is that we'll want to make sure that we are using SiteNav. This hasn't been set up, so it's the SiteNav and the wireframes for the first kind of step. Right now, just in general, to get to this page, it's search or it's coming from under product. I don't necessarily think that that's the right place for it, especially because this page is kind of like the marketing landing page. It's not necessarily like the product specific page about why this product is great for enterprise. That's something that we should use as off ramps. A little bit of history on that. One is because we control the messaging a lot more on that. So if this sits within product, they want to use very specific product marketing messaging, and we want to have the ability here to go a little bit more creative and what we're talking about and how we show things. So that's why we're going to do that. I put together, I think I've shared it with most of you guys, a SiteNav starter. This is, Michael will own the full SiteNav. I just started putting this together because as we're making changes, I wanted to kind of track them. So this is everything mapped out on the website. This is what we are currently doing so that we can keep track of it. So I have how it's set up from navigation over to the enterprise page. One thing we will just try to think about is, where do we have the enterprise page, this marketing page, sit as a whole? Is it in the top nav by itself? Does it sit under somewhere else, etc.? So for possible entrances to this page, we have organic social. We will probably be running paid ads at some point in time. Organic search and paid search. And then again, from navigation within the site. So we want to kind of think about that. And then, perfect, thank you, Shane. For possible next pages, these are things that are not determined. We should add to this list as we go. But as I've been looking through these pages, the pricing page, the relevant product pages that we have, and by product pages, I wanted to clarify this because it's a little iffy for me. These are the pages currently that the product marketing team kind of owns. So like solutions pages, I'm talking about product pages. When they say product pages, they might mean something else.
Can you just call them solutions pages? Because I think that's like the obvious next step, and it's really clear what pages those are, because I saw in some of the issues that there was use cases listed as a step.
Okay.
Those are not web pages. I confirmed this with John Jeremiah this week.
Okay.
We have topic pages, solution pages, and then like product feature pages.
Okay.
Where it's like everything under stages of DevOps falls into that category.
Okay.
So I would just call them solutions pages. There's no such thing as use case pages.
Okay, that works for me. So on here, please keep adding to this list if you think they're relevant. The one thing I just wanted to point out is like, this is kind of, we're building both things at the same time. So we haven't thought of an enterprise track on our team necessarily before this. So we will continue to have these kind of off ramps coming up, etc. So for visual elements, I just put on here enterprise brand. So Matt and Luke, you guys own that and what the enterprise brand means. Pretty much what I'm saying there, just it's the offshoot of what our GitLab brand is for that particular audience. So if you guys want to do any testing on anything, let us know. I don't want to go crazy, but if you guys have you're not sure whether photography would be better in certain places, let us know, and we can run some quick tests on what we have for those MVC pages. Just let us know. So for content, I just put here a list of things I was thinking of. Erica, you can add things on here. So this is to assist in identifying on and off ramps. We want to build out a path factory track. I think that's something we talked about. And then we would just need to make a plan. Erica, we're going to have to make a plan in the future for making content that would support kind of the story that we're telling, because I'm sure there are gaps.
Yeah, I think we could probably come up with something to start, but as we're developing this enterprise brand, I'd love to put together a few assets that are like very specific to this page and this audience with this intent.
Mm-hmm.
I think that might be like a 6 to 4 month long project to get all of it. But I expect to create some new content for this.
Perfect.
So I'm sorry, I got a little sidetracked thinking about something on next pages,
Mm-hmm.
and just asking, like, should this be a page where we plan to send people to a next page? Or should this be a page where, like, it's super targeted, it's enterprise, and we want to put everything on this page, make it like super long form and draw those people in and keep them on this page and push them to contact sales, trial. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I think when we talk about next pages, I'm concerned that, you know, we want this content to be as, you know, deep as it needs to be for this target audience. And I'm not saying we need to do it with this iteration, but just something that occurred to me while I'm thinking about this audience specifically is, you know, it might be a right audience for like a really in-depth, long-form, super targeted page.
So Shane, I did a medium-sized competition analysis in regards to who else is out there doing this kind of thing. And I found 2 major failings in all their pages. One is they're long as hell, too long. It's just wasting people's time. And second of all, I think GitHub had 14 external links going to other parts of their site that aren't targeted for enterprise. So I would say keep it succinct and keep them on that page, because really this is going to be the only page that is designed in this way. Anything else, any other path anywhere else is going to be, it's going to look like a completely different site. So my recommendation is while we have them, let's help them and give them something to do. Because I mean, a lot of the competitors, it's just like, check out our culture. It's like, who cares, man? Like, what are you going to do for my company?
Yeah, I agree. I think this page should not be about GitLab at all. But I think we have a really compelling use case for enterprises where we're talking about, hey, you know, ditch all your other DevOps tools and use GitLab, and like laying that out. It can be long form, but I think if we do long form, it has to be focused on the customer point of view. It cannot be like, check out our all remote culture. I mean, that's a great message, but it's not the message for this page.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there is going to be a point where we're going to have to examine, when are we saying too much? What's the average time spent on these pages by these folks who are going to be looking at this as an enterprise solution? Most of them are just going to be curious. Are they going to have specific questions? Like, do we have our little GitLab, little Tanuki in the corner thing with the chat, which wasn't on, I don't know if it's on the enterprise page yet, but there is going to be a point where they have specific questions about their organization. And I think going over all the details, we may lose a few people. So I think it'd be interesting to test when we should cut content off and then be like, and let's proceed to the next step. I'm not sure historically what that looks like on the site, but a lot of the ones I was looking at during the competition analysis were just gnarly long and just like droning on. And I'd love us to really have that confident, you know, punch that just says, you know, we know what we're doing, we know how to help you, let's get started.
Yeah, so
sorry, I was just going to ask one more thing. When we're evaluating, well, okay, let me take a step back. Do we have any time budget for potentially doing user interviews or anything like that for UX research of what should be on the page, or are we mostly going to just say we're doing this based on the data that we already have?
So I would say right now we are going to be doing this based on the data that we already have, which is unfortunate in some ways. However, we are supposed to make this happen by the end of the year, this particular page within this quarter, right? So we can say for next year, we also just don't have budget this year because we haven't had a plan of action. So what we can do is we can say we're going to do this page, and next year we plan on putting budget towards doing these XYZ, and we plan on updating the page on this date. So we have a plan of action going forward. And also when we do this redesign, I am sure it's going to get more attention than it has right now. So we can say, great, we have a plan where we're going to actually do some research outside of GitLab to determine what we want to do.
Cool, makes sense.
The other thing I wanted to say on here is again, back to what you guys were saying with the kind of like possible next pages. I do not want to make this page overly complicated, like we said. I think that we could talk about things that fit within that solutions. If there's somebody that wants to get to the deep dive product info, we should have a way to send them there. And this is something that I think, Matt, you might be able to solve with design, where it's like on the page, if you are not ready to make a decision that's a trial and you just happen to be one of those people that wants to learn more about complicated things because you like it, how do we send them there without pushing them away with any of the main CTAs we have? So I think that's kind of like one of the big design goals that we'll have, is we know we want to push people to free trials, or basically contacting sales. I mean, buying now would be great. That would be the best thing ever, right? But how can we get them there without taking away from everything else that we're trying to do?
Yeah, for sure. And something I added in the notes as well in regards to free trials is, do we know how an enterprise might implement GitLab as a tool for a free trial? Like, are there different scenarios where they're like, we just want to put it on this part of the tool chain, or we want to, briefly replace our entire tool chain on like a staging server, or however it works. I'm wondering if anybody's unsure, like free trial for enterprise to me sounds like a big project. And are there any scenarios we can paint, like, hey, you can use it for the entire tool chain, or you can just use it for this, this, and this. It partners with this. You can that could play into the use cases, but I wouldn't want to bury it. But I'm wondering if there's any thought on basically laying out some ideas of how to implement this as a free trial.
That's a really great point. Sorry. I was just going to say quickly that the reason that we have SCM, agile development, and CI/CD those are the things that have been identified by the sales team that enterprises tend to implement first, or they're looking for first, and then they add the other parts of the DevOps complete platform. So that's kind of why we started with those things.
I was just going to say, I've heard product talking about this, and it mimics my own experience. Different enterprises are going to potentially want different lengths of free trial. So I don't know if we have a longer enterprise free trial that we should be pointing them towards, or if I don't know what the state of our free trials is, or what they look like, basically, is what I'm getting at. But like an enterprise free trial might be longer than a normal free trial.
Yeah, I don't know that the trial is longer, Brandon, but I think the process is different, because you have like, solutions architects that are supporting sales, that are doing proof of value, and like they're setting all this up so that the enterprise can go in and see how this works for their team. And so it's not like, our team saying, hey, we want to do a free trial of Mural, and we're going to try it for 30 days, and we're going to use it. Like, it's really like, a lot more like mapping out the use cases they're going to be covering and how all that works together. And so, it's not a 30-day process. It may be a 30-day length on the actual trial, but on the, to get enterprise to that point is a lot of work, and it really involves sales. So contact sales might be a better primary driver than free trial.
That was also kind of where I was going with it, right? Is like, if you're an enterprise and you need a longer trial, then your first default might be to contact sales to get that longer free trial, or whatever you need. It might not even be a trial, just a playground set up with your particular needs. So contact might be a good, what you're saying might be a good option.
So I have a question though about that, because aren't we assuming that the audience of this page is more of an individual contributor who's scoping something out for their business. And if I'm a developer on this page, and this is coming from Dunk's team, right, of like, these are the people surfacing tools in their organization, or I see individuals, they might land on this page. They probably don't want to talk to sales, but they might take a trial themselves as just an individual to try out the product because they're a developer and they're curious and they want to see what it's like. So I agree with what you're saying from like I'm the CIO of the company, and if we're going to try out something, it's going to be this long thing. But have we considered that it might just be an IC taking a free trial, and then they're going to talk to sales later, and then they might do a second or a third trial even as an organization leader.
Yeah, in
That
my
makes
head,
sense.
it looked like start like a 30-day free trial, and then with, you know, a secondary CTA scene, looking for an extended trial, or do you have a complex implementation? Get in touch with us about setting up an extended trial and start receiving GitLab support immediately. Just kind of like if you want to go crazy, you got to talk to us, because we'll help you do it right. But also then we start a conversation, and then also we can, like you're saying, Erica, separating the casual, you know, user from, oh, I'll try that on a personal machine or a work machine or whatever, from person who actually wants to implement it, that may turn into a lead or may turn into a sale eventually. So yeah, I'm down with that.
Yeah, that's kind of what we've been told. And we've set up the existing pages in that thought process of, we have free trial at the top, and then at the bottom, we're like, not sure, contact sales, because we assumed that if somebody got through the multiple CTA that we've put on the page for free trial, that they probably didn't know what they wanted at that point. So we've sent them to sales. Also, this relates to this a little bit, but going with the fact that we think that it'll probably be an individual that wants to try it out, probably the SaaS trial is going to be the one that they're going to go for, not self-managed. However, that's a very large conversation about how we talk about SaaS versus self-managed down the road, but that's just keeping everybody's heads.
I was going to ask about that for the sake of this page, because we've talked about how our current trial is like a two-step process. You land on the page to choose which one you want, and then you land on another page to fill a form. Are we going to fast track people from this page directly to SaaS?
So there's two things on there. One is, we have confirmed that as of right now, we cannot have a Marketo form for SaaS directly on the page. So we know that that's out of the question. And then the only place that they can land if they go from this page to directly to SaaS is within the product owns that. So it's not very nicely set up. So that's just a risk we take on either end. I am not opposed to just sending them there. The bigger problem that we have to discuss, and I think we all know this, is if we decide to send people straight to that page, it would have been something like, if they wanted self-managed, how do they get over to self-managed? Is it clear? And we'd have to work with the product team on that.
I lost where we're at in the agenda notes, but it seems like we've covered all the elements down to the questions. So I just wrote these out for me, so I remembered to ask them. Have we talked about putting a video band on the page now that we have those? I mean, Path Factory is a good option, but like if we have any videos that we want to put directly on the page or anything like that?
I don't know, Erica. My gut would be to say no on this, just because that puts them too far down the learn more path than the pushing for a free trial, because we're trying to get them to MQL. That's just my gut.
Yeah, I think that we could put a video on this page, but I also don't think that we have the right video yet. So it'd be something that I asked Erica to create, where it'd probably be a very straightforward, like kind of customer testimonial video. But I agree, like on a page like this, if we put a video ban, you have the option to watch 5 videos. I don't know, that just feels like a lot of content to put in front of someone where they could get distracted or bored or forget what they're doing.
Cool. I mean, that makes sense to me. I'm on board with that. Just figured I'd ask. And then another question I have, and this came up at some point in the past, but I forgot to write it down somewhere. Are we interested in putting a Drift chatbot on the page at all so they can kind of directly chat with wherever that goes?
This I'm not sure about. It's a good question, and I think we should let's look into this and maybe bring this up in the next conversation that we have at a higher level with Danielle and Michael.
Cool. And then in terms of the possible entrances, would product be one of them, or are we just kind of trying to stay away from that? And that's more of a long-term, like that wouldn't be a short-term entrance, but like, do we ever envision people coming here from the product?
I think as we are, and this is just my opinion, as we are building out kind of the site map, we will see opportunities within the product pages. I'm not saying like just the nav, where we can say like, hey, are you looking for GitLab Enterprise, and put it in there. For the time being, I think we should, if we're going to be going after this, we should see about maybe putting it in the main nav for enterprise. What we should do is look at what other companies do as a best practice, and we can use one of those recommendations. And then from there, if we want to test things, we can, if we're just not sure. As it stands right now, there is an issue for the product mega menu to go up. So if you guys want to take a look at that, Matt, I actually think you're the designer on that also, that's listed. So you guys can look at that, and that might be a good opportunity based on the things that were laid out for like, what are you looking for, right? And putting enterprise there. So let's take a look at that navigation.
Brandon, were you asking about a link to enterprise from within the tool itself for existing users?
Yeah, sorry, I think, yeah. Both answers are valid, but yeah, I was also asking like within the GitLab product itself, when you're using the tool, like you're on a Kanban board and there's an upgrade link somewhere. That's kind of all I was thinking.
Yeah, I think there's, I mean, the industry standard seems to be, and it's never bothered me, is just that like mini, like, hey, looking for more, almost out of room or whatever, and be like, we also offer this level of service. So, but yeah, incorporating that into the product itself, I think would be awesome. I mean, I've personally upgraded some services just because I was made aware of them within the app. So.
Yeah, so I think that the good thing we have with this particular project is that we don't have an enterprise product per se. We are just selling to enterprises, so we don't have to worry about anything there, and we can use the kind of like any opportunities, which we're supposed to be doing for growth. We're just trying to get all this stuff done for kind of pushing people to the next stage.
That's a good point. Makes sense to me.
So I have on here I have the Enterprise Epic. I made issues on this already, kind of based on standard stuff. I think, Brandon, we had talked about this where you may need to make some additional issues, and same goes for Shane, Luke, Matt, Erica. If there are additional issues that you need to put into this Epic to get things done, please make them. It's kind of the scaffolding is already there. And then if you guys could look at those production issues and I kind of left them pretty much like bare bones so that your teams could own them. The first thing that we need to get done is talking about the nav and the wireframe. So Brandon, Michael said he has full confidence in you to put together a wireframe for this stuff. So this is one of the things I wanted to kick off. I don't know if you wanted to ask some questions about what the first things you would possibly need to get that going are while we have this team.
Sorry, so that was for the kind of the navigation,
The nav and the wireframe.
the wireframe. Sorry. Okay. What would I need? So I think a lot of the information is here. I know what the goals are. I know what the entry points are and what information should be on the page based on what we've established from before. And Matt has done the competitive research that I can look at. So I think I'm at a good point in terms of what we need to be on the page. I don't have any more questions at the moment, although let me just look at what's there right now. Well, so I'm not really worried about the content of what's, well, let me take a step back. I don't need to know the specifics of the content at this point. I can wireframe with the lorem ipsum, even though we already have some content I can put in there to give me an idea. So I think I'm good.
So Erica, do you have like a basic structure for how you want the content to flow? Like going from, if we're going from the CEO, CTO down to a developer, like for me, it's like big impressive numbers and then like a little more granular, And now you're a developer, a lot more granular. Like, is there a cascade that Brandon could follow with that?
Now that I've written down, I could pull something together for us to collaborate on. I haven't seen your competitive research. I'm not seeing it linked in the Epic. I'd really love to see that issue before I'm like, yeah, I have some sort of idea, because I feel like that would inform it. So that's something
landscape analysis, I think.
Is that what?
Yep. Is that in there?
Oh yeah, it is. Okay. So let me look at that, and I can put together like, yeah, an outline where it's not the full copy, but what I think the flow should be. And then we can all collaborate on it. I also don't want to like try to dictate this, because I haven't built a page like this before. So I'm kind of leaning on everyone here as well to determine that. Yeah, I had a question, actually. Someone in the doc listed a bunch of research resources. I was wondering if anybody had started to pull any of that together, any links from Chorus or Dovetail or anything like that. I just got access to Dovetail yesterday, and I don't actually know how to use it.
I have not. I just have been seeing more and more comment threads or Slack conversations mentioning Dovetail, and I know that UX and conversion, product growth use those tools, and so I started to read into it, and I thought they would be useful tools for us to use. And so when I asked if any of us in growth should have access, and Becky was like, oh, you know, Erica would probably be good to put on that list too, as we're coming up with content to do these things. So the short answer is no, I haven't looked into it yet, but yeah, they'd be good to look through.
I know we don't have a lot of time to like pull research and stuff, but I might start an issue for that, because one thing, you all know the history of our whole website. I mean, not a lot of research has gone into how it's been developed. And even if we just take a few days to look at some of the stuff this time around, I feel like that will be a huge improvement. I could make stuff up all day long. I don't want to do that. So I want to like look at some of these sources, look at your research, Matt, and then we can put together an outline.
Yeah, I think a key for what I've used in the past, it's been exceptionally helpful, is defining the individuals who will be using the page, determining who needs a less conversation all the way to who needs way more conversation. Mm-hmm. And then basically like it just goes like a pyramid from there. Not a scheme, just a pyramid or triangle. There, a triangle scheme. But anyway, it's helped me solidify ideas for, okay, I've gone on too much here, maybe this goes to the next chunk. And then when it gets to Brandon for laying out a wireframe, it's like, oh, it gets heavier as you go in. But from a design perspective, developing that big theme, that big punch up top, and then learning how to degrade it down low where there's a lot of information would be really helpful to see in the wireframe, and also read in the content, because I love content despite being a designer. Without you baking the cake, we have nothing to decorate. So
Well, and that's what's kind of fun about this process too. I feel like one really can't come before the other. It's like we do need to have some parallel tracks going here, because Brandon, you could, or whoever could go develop a wireframe, and then I'm trying to fit content to it, or I develop content and you try to fit the wireframe. And in those sort of processes, I feel like the user gets totally missed, versus if we can build these things kind of together, we'll find the sweet spot between the two.
Yeah, I mean, for me, a successful path in the past has been defining what we want the user journey to be.
Yeah.
What user will be at what stage in the journey, and then defining what content they need to see at that point. And then from there, it's like, whoa, it's like the wireframe is almost making itself. So from there, it's really like framing nice parts of the conversation in different ways. But it's, for me, the user journey and the content super dictate the structure and design. So I'd be super happy to work with everybody on that. But yeah, I think we have a good opportunity to make something will convert here, and I think content is going to play a huge part in that.
So as the first step to us all coordinating on this, because I know that this is something that kind of we all have to work together on. Brandon, do you want to make a Figma file for this so that we can start putting all of that stuff in one place, and then we can keep not the main site nav, but like the nav that we plan on doing, the wireframes, anything in the content, we can put that in that Figma file so everybody has access to it.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. It'll definitely help to, well, I'll start by kind of providing the skeleton, and then we can put in more information and all that. Obviously, I'm slammed this week, so I wouldn't be able to start on it until next week. So if that's a dependency, then we can also start in parallel, like Erica said, on kind of an outline of what we want to go in there. But yeah, I'll start us as soon as I can and on a place to put it.
Yeah, I can take the action like within, I don't know if we need another issue, I can do it within the content issue, but to start building that outline, we can call it the user journey between myself, Matt, Brandon, whomever on this call, we can start to debate what that looks like, and then that informs, it sounds like, the wireframe and the content. But that's kind of our first step, where none of us are creating anything just yet, other than a document of like, who is this for and what are they doing? I think that's what I was hearing from you, Matt.
That sounds good.
Yep. And just to keep you guys aware of time on this is the way I have this worked back for a live date of September 30th was that we just wanted to have a wireframe done by September 4th. So I think that should work for you, Brandon, based on the things that are happening. And these issues, I've already put them in your milestones, like the ones that I have there to kind of hold time. That's why I wanted to put them as this kind of skeleton, so that no one just goes in there automatically and thinks, oh, I don't have something that I need to deliver on this. You can see it there and you're like, cool, okay, I might not have all the information, but I know on this week I'm probably gonna have to be working on this. So I think that's good to go. Yeah, do we have anything else that we need to do for next steps here? Nope. Okay, cool.
I remembered another thing, sorry.
It's okay.
First in the bubble. The logos and logo band. I assume we'll want a logo band on there, and we have a list of logos that are approved. Do we need to ask for any more, or who's going to lead kind of picking which ones we put there or anything like that?
I can do that. I met with Kim yesterday and got the lowdown on all of this. So I am properly informed this time around.
Cool.
Awesome. Okay.
Brandon, one question: Are we going to be dealing with any development constraints with this design or anything?
I think the usual grid is good, and let me take a step back. Short answer, no. Long answer, the more we change, the longer it takes. So, but I would like to build this page in a way that's performant and may break slightly with what we already have existing, if that makes sense, as we're moving towards the long-term direction.
You had me.
Whatever that is, we don't know yet.
Yeah, sounds good to me.
Okay, cool. So everybody knows what they need to do next. And if we have any more questions, we can get back together on this. Is there a check-in point that you guys feel we should have set up just to block time? That you can think of? Maybe if we're gonna have the wireframes on September 4th, we do a check-in after the wireframes. Would that work?
Sure.
Okay, cool. I will set that up so that we have some time blocked off on our calendars. Well, thank you, everybody. I am going to post this to Unfiltered, well, or Danielle is going to. Thank you guys all for your time. Let me know if you need anything else. Bye.